Hello, I'm David Og, the man behind the Vectrex Mini, and I'm listening to Scene World Podcast.
Hey, it's Scene World Podcast, AJ am being, and he is Jörg over there.
Hello.
In Germany, in 4K, although you probably won't be seeing this in 4K because
I will try to export it in 4K.
we'll see.
So in a minute, we will be talking to André Fachat. He is known for being an emulation expert because he used to be involved with the Wise 64 project.
Yep.
And we mentioned him a couple of times because of the new Starlight Ultimate 64 from Commodore, which he made a video of because of the bending of the keyboard. And you mentioned that you watched the video in which he cross-fastened the screws.
Yes.
To make it stable again and not bending in on pressure.
Yeah. There's night mode.
There is a night mode? Nice.
Yeah, it's up. If you look at your little icon in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, if you hit settings, you can decide whether you want it to be, system, light, or dark. System default, light, or dark.
Okay.
So I switched it over to dark. So now I am not.
I only have
a ghost.
Settings on the right, you say?
On the right, on the upper top of the window, there's a little question mark, and then your user icon.
Right.
If you click your user icon, you got settings.
Oh,
that will let you change. Yeah.
Nice. Oh yeah. Yeah, I see.
That's much nicer.
Oh, I can also see. I can also say automatically let people in, or manually let people in. Okay, interesting. Nice. Okay. Interesting.
So anyway, what were we saying?
Before that, though, some news. And we have
who wants
some
to go
big
first?
ones here. Yeah. Well,
do you want me to start with my littler news so we can then get to yours?
Yes.
Okay. I got 3 little things here. Not little, but they're 3 things.
Okay.
Number 1, there is a new version 266 of Hippo Player for the old Amiga.
Okay.
I'm tapping the wrong thing. For the Amiga, it's a mod player, for classic Amiga. It's been around forever. I think if you've got an Amiga, you probably have Hippo Player on your machine, and I'm gonna just bring this over to here so I can read it.
It has nothing to do with Hippo Happy Hippo from the Kinder Surprise Eggs, right?
I don't believe so, but I don't really. I don't know the backstory of it, so I couldn't tell you.
Because they were the happy hippos of the Kinder Surprise Egg.
I don't know. I've never had a real Kinder Surprise egg, so
really?
I don't know what you're
talking about. But you have those
in
America, don't you?
Yeah, but they're knockoffs. They're not the real. They're not real.
Really?
I have a friend who is from Germany, Steffi, and she's like, these are not the ones we got.
That's interesting because it's available in all other countries. Well, that's one thing America don't have. Okay, interesting.
Well, I guess the stuff that was in it, they decided that it's got to be. It can't be like the sort of thing that I don't know what. I guess maybe Germany was like storing like scimitars in them or something, and
figurines,
here in America they're
puzzles.
It was stuff that
toys.
in the U.S. because everyone in the U.S. is catastrophically stupid. They had to put stuff in it because they were afraid that people were just going to eat whatever was in it, not
holy shit. Okay.
So it had to be a whole different thing that nobody can swallow.
Okay, so I correct myself.
But anyway,
this is only important for people who are living everywhere except America.
Yeah, but So there's a new version from KP Kojonen, It's a couple of fixes, a couple of improvements. Um, so now it plays PS3M correctly, I guess.
Oh,
Um, it also adds OGG playback support. Um, but you need to have, I guess, you need enough CPU power to do that. So they suggest like a 68060, but um, TFMX support is fixed a bit. And you can now resize the info window, both horizontally and vertically.
which is a very
So yeah,
important
so it's.
feature, I guess.
I mean, it's one of those things that I always tried to do and couldn't. So, but yeah, so that's available. It's on it's on Aminet, which is probably the best place to find Amiga stuff.
Nice.
So that is, I will put a link to that in the podcast description. I was always impressed at. So I had when I first started using Macs, my first Macs were 68K Macs. They were I had a 68030 Mac Classic and a string of different 68040 Macs. Quiet. And I remember one of the things about the 040 Macs was that they could not handle MP3 files or any kind of like high end like OGG or anything like that. They just could not do. It wasn't even a matter of it wasn't even that they were too slow to do it. It was just that everyone just said they cannot do it. You need a Power PC to do this. Then I got this old Amiga, which is, again, it's an 8 megahertz 68,000, which I have updated with a 68020. Not even that impressive. And whereas the old Macs, if I played a mod on them with a Sound Trekker, I think was the software, everything would slow to a crawl while they worked out how to play that music. This thing does it without even thinking about it, which is, I mean, kind of amazing, really, because it's more or less the same. It's very similar hardware, same processor, all that stuff. The sound hardware is a little bit different, but it's largely the same thing. So I'm always impressed by what this thing can do, just, as a general rule, just as a, just something that it is able to do without really worrying about it. Next, we have an interesting. So this is something that I'm surprised that we didn't, that you didn't do at some point in the past.
What?
It's a historical interview by Commodore Sam. So there's a YouTube channel, and it is ostensibly about the 64 Ultimate. Because he's talking about doing things with the 64 Ultimate. But the main part of this video, which we will link to, is an interview with the developer that ran Sogwop Software. So if anyone is unaware, Sogwop Software stands for, and I will butcher this, I'm sure, because I do not remember. So they made Big Blue Reader and Little Red Reader for the 64 and 128 that let you use DOS formatted discs. Both 15 on you needed a 1571 or a 1581, and then you could read and write to DOS formatted floppies, which was like, that was a thing that I did all the time in high school because I had to bring things back and forth to school, and nobody had a C64 at that point.
So it's a pendant to what we had in Europe, which was GeoDOS, which is a program for GEOS that would use your 1581 to read 3.5 inch DD discs from PC. 720K. Yeah.
Right. So this is an interview then with Michael Miller, who was the guy behind this. Now, SOGWOP stands for, and I am remembering, I'm pulling this from memory, not from, it's nowhere on my screen. I believe it is something like Son of God with all power or something like that. It's a very, 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 very religious thing.
All
And in
right.
fact, the one of the first pieces of software they had, and what they mostly talk about in this video
Bible.
is Bible search. Yes,
Yeah.
the Bible
Yeah.
search
See.
software. So, but it's an interesting historical interview because this is stuff that was, it was ubiquitous. I mean, I remember seeing the ads for the Bible search software in the little buyer's guide thing that came with the 64.
So probably
And that,
the two reasons why I didn't do it. Once I was using GeoDOS, so more the European side of things, and I'm atheist, so I'm not into Bibles.
right, yeah, exactly. I have no interest in the Bible stuff at all, and but the Big Blue Reader slash little Red Reader were very very useful and kind of necessary things for my childhood. So that's a cool thing. That's a YouTube video. We will link to it.
Awesome.
And two more.
Okay, sure.
One is that. God, how do you say the E with two little dots above it?
E. With two little dots above it.
Yeah. So
That's not
his name is.
that's not a letter
If the,
in
if the
German.
guy's name is spelled, you stopped moving. What happened?
That's not a letter in German. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. So the guy's name is Daniel, but the E has two little dots. So
That's
I don't know if
probably
that's
like Swedish or whatever.
Daniel,
Scandinavian
yeah,
or whatever.
Daniel Mantione, Mantiones. I'm not. Again, I'm not. I'm sorry to anyone whose name I am murdering here.
I thought you
He's got
said butchering. Murdering.
whichever. Yeah. There's a new video on YouTube from Daniel Mattione. I'm just going to make sure. I'm going to see if he's got a handle here on this video before I do anything else. Come on. Oh, dear God. Come on. Nope, it's the same thing. Daniel Mattione. And so he's got a video on... Yeah, let me start this again because I just waffled for a good 4 minutes, and that's terrible. Sure. Okay, so there's a new video on YouTube from Daniel Mantione, and I apologize if I'm murdering your name. This is one of those days. But he's got a video showing off a modern kind of like a new implementation of the Final Cartridge 3, called it's Final Cartridge 3 101% of the firmware.
Nice.
New firmware for it. So this is apparently, it says it's the Final Cartridge 3 with the annoyances removed. Because one of the first things it does is it goes straight, by default, it goes straight into basic. Because that's what most people use it for.
Depends, My grandfather loved it for the graphical user interface.
The GUI is cool, but I would rather have the GUI be a button that I could push, because when I turn the computer on, and every goddamn time I gotta use the GUI to get to basic. Just send me to basic and let me get to the GUI if I want it to.
That's the interesting thing is, I became a nerd in computers because my grandfather was a nerd. But despite that, he had the input switcher on his joystick ports, so he could swap between joystick, port 1, and mouse. And he preferred going through the GUI with the mouse and having a visual representation of the directory and then clicking on the mouse. And I'm like, why do you do that? It's so slow, and the Final Cartridge 3 is less compatible than the action replay and slower in loading. But my grandfather loved it. He really loved it. I don't know why. But he was the Final Cartridge 3 guy. I was the Action Replay 6 professional guy. That was the big difference between the two of us.
Best goddamn cartridge ever, right there. Good old Super Snapshot.
Well, that's the difference between America and Europe. The Super Snapshot thing wasn't a thing in Europe. Not as much.
There were arguments. I remember all these on Q-Link back in the early '90s. People with having real arguments over which cartridge was the one to have. I had at the time an Epix Fast Load, which is like that's one of the defaults now. Everyone, you know.
I had a hard time
man,
getting it for my NTSC
yeah, but
modified Monster Frankenstein C64.
But back then, back in like 92, 91, it was like if you had an Epix Fast Load, they just shit all over you. That was a garbage cartridge.
You know,
you weren't serious
slow.
unless you had.
It was pretty slow.
Yeah, and you weren't serious unless you had the SSV5 or something. It is, you know, it was when I finally got it, I was like, oh yeah, that this thing does kick. It's awesome. But anyway, back to it. So updated firmware also speeds up. I guess that Final Cartridge 3 slowed down.
Yeah, it was a bit slower than Action Replay.
And this gets rid of some of that, gets rid of some of that overhead a little bit, and there's updates to the monitor, so
nice.
I guess backups are no longer locked to device 8.
My grandfather would have loved it.
Yeah. There's a couple of interesting, cool things on it. But
it still has the GUI in it, right?
Yes. Yeah. Of course. It wouldn't be the Final Cartridge 3 if it didn't have the GUI. I mean, that's the thing with it.
I know.
That's the main.
And word processing and other shit in it. Like,
yeah.
Who needs that? But anyway.
So that's that. We'll put a link to that where you can check it out. I don't know how exactly you would really implement this. I guess in like an Ultimate 1541 or that sort of thing, or the 1541 Ultimate. I don't know how the naming conventions of these things. I've got one. It's got different. That U1541 is the reason that my Super Snapshot is not plugged in to the actual machine.
Yeah, but they are different.
Because the ROM has been dumped to that already, and it's already there.
You can also use a super kernel, for example. You can also put cartridge files on there. There are different possibilities.
And the cool thing is that the Super Snapshot had memory, it had RAM in there for copies and everything else. And you could either have, I think it was 8K or 32. They all came with 8 by default. You could send it back in, and they would throw 32 in there. Mine has 32 because, of course, it does. And at first I asked Gideon a long time ago, and he wasn't sure at first. And then someone checked, and the U1541 actually has the 32K of memory that the better Super Snapshot would have.
Nice.
Not that it's useful in day-to-day use, but it's there anyway.
Nice.
Finally, my final piece of news.
Yeah.
Comes from. I guess it started about a month ago.
Nice.
And I'm finding out about it now.
Okay.
Which is that Warner Brothers is releasing Babylon 5, one episode a week for free on YouTube.
Nice, didn't know that.
And this comes from a tweet from the creator of the show, J. Michael Straczynski. Which is cool because I guess there was a lot of streaming issues. A lot of people couldn't get it in certain places, but now they're making it all available on YouTube. And this is Babylon 5 is my like I don't care about memorabilia stuff really. Like I've got a couple of things. If people send me stuff, I'll keep it. Like I got nonsense here that readers sent me or that podcast people sent me, whatever. My one exception is I have an autographed Claudia Christian and an autographed Michael O'Hare from Babylon 5 on the wall. So Babylon 5 is that was my jam back in the That was my jam back in the day. So being able to find it and careful. Jeez. Having it available for free now is kick ass. It's pretty awesome. So we'll put a link to where they are being posted on YouTube, and a link to and a link to Jim Straczynski's, and a link to oh my God, link to J. Michael Straczynski's tweet about the subject so that you can follow along, because he tweets a lot and he's a funny guy and has done a lot of stuff. So that's what I have. What you got, dude? And I'm
more
I'm
than
saying
one
this,
tweet a day sometimes.
Oh yeah. So now I'm asking what you got.
So
because I know what you got. They don't.
Let's start with the Romero games news.
Mm-hmm.
They released some newsletters, and one of them was that they also have a press newsletter now that you can sign up to. We will link to that as well. And by the time you hear this, you can't anymore probably back to it, but there is a Kickstarter named Game On by Brenda Romero's covering of her career. And this is made by independent documentarian Teresa Long. So that's something to mention. Because, when people think about Romero, they often address John Romero, so it's nice to have a documentation about her as well.
We've had them both because
I know. This is why I
insisted.
This is why I insisted we make 2 podcast episodes, one with him and one with her. So that is actually while
quite some time apart.
Took so long.
Quite some time apart, and they were pretty far apart. They didn't happen right next to each other. And the funny thing was that randomly both of those were unusual days, and I was somewhere else for both of them.
Oh,
but I was in the.
You were in the John Romero one.
Yes.
You mean location wise. You mean location?
Yes. Yeah. At home, and I did the podcast from some random location, and it happened to be the same random location both times, despite the fact that they were like a year apart.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah. It was just a weird little.
Yeah, and also they moved to a new office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and also. Other news is John Romero made his own documentary on YouTube about the making of Catacomb 3D. Inviting all the former developers of the game. So it's a little nice documentary to celebrate ID Software 35th anniversary celebration. So
nice.
Yep.
Coolio.
Yes. And that's it from the Romeros for now. So now we move to sad news. There have always been a battle between who is the longest demo scener in the scene, between the UK person Derbyshire Ram, who died a long while ago of cancer, and Serge Engelen, aka Commander of Roll. And both started in the demo scene 1982. So in the same year, the Commodore 64 has been released in Europe. Serge Engelen was Belgian. And his girlfriend, Ice Girl, named Nancy, also was part of the demo scene. And I met Serge Engelen for the first time at Mega Symposium 2001 when I was 19. And then I lost contact with him, but he was known to be very friendly and open, and his group Riders of the Lost Empire Roll was at that time the biggest demo scene group ever in Europe. And also when members had problems financially, being unemployed and so on, he helped there and stuff. So he was
Right.
a very supportive guy. Yeah, so it's very sad to see him gone recently this year.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I had some. Mm,
And he always said to me when I met him in Maker Symposium, he always said, I'm not so important. I'm not so
yeah,
important.
I had some contact with him a number of years ago. I want to say, oh God, I don't even remember when exactly. It was probably the early 2000s, and it was in relation to potentially doing something for Arachnophobia, which was Roll's disc magazine at the time.
Right.
I
One
think
of
this
those.
might have
The
been,
other one was rock and roll.
yeah, yeah, but it
Yeah.
was specifically Arachnophobia that I was talking to him about. And I think, if I remember right, I think he approached me because maybe this was during the time when Scene World wasn't active, or this may have
Between
also just been
25 and 2010.
yeah, 2005, yeah. Or
Yeah.
or or this could have just also been the time when I was writing for literally every disc magazine that existed.
All right.
It might have been yeah, so I'm not entirely sure when it is.
I see. Uh-huh.
But yeah, he was a very cool guy, very nice, and he didn't have a lot of the a lot of times, especially back then, uh, the European guys that had been around for a long time would kind of not have an attitude specifically, but would regard the younger sceners as kind of like let the kids play or something, but we don't want anything to do with them. But
That
he
is why
wasn't
People of
like that.
Liberty was named Power Flamers before I renamed the group. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, but he wasn't like that at all. He was very cool and very friendly and yeah, I don't think God, I honestly don't remember if I wrote something for Arachnophobia or not. I don't have. I could probably just look and see if I got a credit there, but I don't
I
really
know that
care to do it right now.
Andrew and I did.
Yeah, yeah, you did. Maybe you were the ones that directed him to me. I'm not sure. I just remember
No, I
having
didn't. I
discussions with
didn't.
him.
I didn't.
I just remember having discussions with him, and
Hmm.
I don't remember whatever happened from those. It was a long time ago, but I do recall that he was cool, and that's a real shame that he's not with us anymore.
Anyway. Other news though, because that will go out on the stream.
Yeah.
Yes. So in 2015, there was Kickstarter called Drift Stage, an
Yes, there
indie
was.
racing game, and it never finished, apart from an early access version from 2016 on Steam, because the group fell apart and the coder left the
Right,
project and
right.
so on. But here's the thing. Marty Wisnowski, our very own notepad of
Yes,
Scene World, became a publisher for games last year. And I pitched to him to finish the game, and he said yes.
that's fucking
So,
amazing.
so
What is it? What is Martin's publishing company called?
from electricity, yes. And I'm holding the stuff together. That's my job.
Yeah,
So basically,
yeah.
it's the same thing I'm doing for Scene World, holding it together. Yeah, Charles Blanchard, the graphic artist, he fought in front of court to get the IP and access to the source code and the rights to the source code. So we are not doing the game from scratch, but Martin is continuing it, and that's a special part of this project, so it can be completed.
Well, I was talking about the fact that that they had meant to close down the Steam page
Yeah.
after a final update.
Well,
but because of
Charles
you
was
and Martin,
like, give it up, because he
Yeah.
was looking for publishers and coders to finish the game, and they put him down, and so he was at that
But
point
you
was
had
like, give it up, give it up.
yes,
Yeah, right. And also the interview with Marone, who is the composer of the game, was part of that deal.
Yes.
So this is why we had him for the last episode, right? So
Right.
we even got a contract signed.
Even though you couldn't talk about it in the episode with him because it wasn't announced yet.
Because the contracts weren't signed yet.
Now, everybody go back and watch that Myron podcast again with this context in mind, because he couldn't say during that podcast, he couldn't talk about this with Myron, even though that's the reason that he was talking to Myron in the first place.
Right.
And let me also add to anyone out there that because everyone's just discovering this, I also did not know anything about this. Okay, he booked the interview with Myron, right? And then I wasn't able to be there because things have been kind of wacky here in the world. But afterwards, I was doing my engineering to it, and I was looking and I'm like this guy is like a guitarist and a musician. Like, what does he have to do with us? I'm like, what is this? And then I messaged Jurg. I'm like, what are we talking? What the hell is going on? Like, what do I link to? What do I put in the thumbnail for his name? And he's like, just put that. And then the next day he told me what the hell was going on, and I'm like, oh, well, that makes more sense. But still, like the interview as it was just talking to a guitarist, and I'm like, what? Why are we doing this? Like, where's the context? What does this have to do with anything that we do? I mean, it's granted, the podcast is kind of all over.
I take NDAs very seriously.
I mean, the podcast is generally all over the place anyway, and I wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't veto that. We've had musicians before, but if it doesn't have anything specifically to do with things that we're involved in, it's kind of like, why are we? I mean, yeah, if Alice Cooper called me up tomorrow and was like, hey, I want to do your podcast, I'm like, okay, it's not going to make any sense, but yeah, come do the podcast. But
right.
But it was just kind of confusing to me because this is stuff that I wasn't even informed of going on. So it was as big a surprise to me as it was to everybody.
Yes, there's a new email. Exactly.
Yeah,
if you're a Kickstarter backer, if you are press, or if you're anybody and you have questions about the game, the corporation, about us, just write to driftstage@sceneworld.org and we will sort it out to you. This email goes to the whole group. Me, Charles Blanchard, the graphic guy, and Morden. So if you have any questions, just email us and we will get back to you.
Okay. I have another piece here from 7-Bit, which has released 2 new products for the Amiga, specifically for the Amiga 500 and 500 Plus. This is the Kick Switcher and the Witcher 520i. So the Kick Switcher it's a Kickstart switcher. So again, for anyone that's not familiar with the Amiga, with these guys over here, it has the OS is kind of packed into it, the ROMs, and there's different Kickstart versions you can run, and some software wants newer Kickstart, some software wants older Kickstart, and so you need to kind of be able to switch around it. I get around that on mine because the ACA 500 Plus from individual computers, you can store a bunch of them, but the Kick Switcher is a hardware solution where you can have multiple kickstarts installed. I think it also works with the Amiga 2000. So that's that. And then the Witcher 520i is a hardware solution that lets you have multiple kickstarts in your system. It'll also work with the A2000, I think, which makes sense because the A2000 and 500 aren't that different from each other architecturally. And then there's the Witcher 520i, which is an accelerator. It's a turbo card that fits inside the Amiga 500. It is
It's a witch.
Well, it's a 68020 processor with clock settings of 20, 25, or 33 megahertz. And there's also an IDE controller as part of that, which is, I believe it's similar to the IDE controller in the A600. Which again would make sense because the A600 is sort of a sawed-off Amiga 500. So that's out from 7-bit. We'll put links to where you can find that if you want to get it. That's another cool thing. I love the Amiga and the things that you can do with it to kind of keep it running and working and you know. The C64 is kind of like the C64 and 128 are the C64 and 128. The Amiga with that like ability to upgrade it and still have it be an Amiga means that like you can get so much more use out of this old stuff. Like I go on the web with this thing. You know, I actually
you told
do
a couple of times.
Yeah, I know. I say it all the time, but it's like I love the fact that I can do that and that you can update it to a point where it can do that, you know? So that's what I got.
Do that too with the C64, but when SSL became a standard, the SSL is unfortunately too strong for the C64 to handle, so you can barely visit any website anymore.
I never really did websites on the 64. I did I would use it for IRC and stuff like that, but and for email back in the day, but these days I haven't really. I would love to be able to do that. I wish that I like the Quantum Link Reloaded or that they have for it. Haven't been on it in a while, but if they were to implement some of the old features like the news thing, like USA Today, current events or something, I would totally use that to get my news in the morning rather than going on to the the real internet and reading stuff.
The real internet.
The real internet, yes.
That's nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, the website of TND64/Richard was once hosted by Roman from C64 Escape, but he is about to shut down his web server. So, Richard, thanks to you actually, is now hosted by us.
Excellent. That's great.
Now, perhaps share why it's your fault.
It's I wouldn't say it's my fault. He just Richard just sent an email out to everyone asking if anyone had a good idea for a good web hosting service, and I recalled that you
were
had
the first.
Yeah, you had
reading it.
Yeah, and you had migrated your website, your blog to these servers, and you had mentioned to me the possibility of doing that with mine.
Exactly.
Right, yes. And I was like, well, I mean, if we could do that, Richard's isn't using any more bandwidth than we are. So
well, basically, what the reason why it doesn't matter is because we have this rare, which is not possible now anymore, really unlimited contract for DreamHost.
Yeah.
That's so basically it doesn't matter.
Right.
They don't do it anymore with new people, but the old contracts are still honored. So
yeah, we're grandfathered in, so they say.
Exactly. Yeah. So he did the move, and man, the website is flying now. It's amazing how much faster the website is now.
Yeah. Nice. I have to check that out. I haven't been on that site in a minute.
Especially for you because it's hosted in America and you are in America. Ooh,
That's true.
tired
That's
today.
true. Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Yeah, it's been a. I'm not used to this getting up and going to work shit anymore.
Ooh, yeah. I was the same at my first weeks at work. So I
Yeah.
was like,
Right.
holy crap. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is like a whole different. Yeah. It's weird, and
Especially
the
at
hours
our
right now are
age.
weird.
Yeah, yeah.
What our age? What the hell does that mean?
Getting better when you get older.
I'm but a
Not
young.
it's
I'm a. I'm a.
young
I don't
timer.
remember. Yeah. What?
A young timer.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm but a youth.
All right. Full of energy, the man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go take a nap in a little bit.
Yeah,
Um.
well, other news though, that one
Oh,
guy.
speaking of which, that's
Yeah,
before we do that,
yeah.
oh god, it fell. I just lost it again. What the hell was it? The 64. What oh, fuck? What site came? The
Commodore
the
64.
news site that came back that was ours.
64 TV.
Yes, yes,
Because
yes.
I by accident, I found that the parking, well, website or domain parking entity in China decided to let it go, and I was like, yeah, that's a nice domain. C64.tv, I'm getting
Yeah.
that.
Uh huh.
Yeah, and I abandoned it when we moved to Dreamhost, and now I decided to revive it. So,
Yeah.
and the first news bit I put onto there was Richard being now hosted by us. So,
Yeah. Right. Yep.
a funny side note, by the way, Jürgen was so deep into the blog that he sent me a WhatsApp today. Please
Oh yeah.
remove my email address from your system. I was like, yeah, well, man, that happens when you are
Yeah.
digging around in other people's stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh.
Jeez. Oh, I got another one. I just found right here. Which is that we mentioned before in a news thing. Um, we've talked about Parallaxian, which was a game that was being developed. It looks really nice. It's being done by John Woods, Kodiak 64.
Oh yeah, that was
Uh,
a few episodes ago we
yeah, that
mentioned
was a
that.
while ago. That was a hot minute ago. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
he just released a new preview
Hmm.
for Parallaxian Alpinia. So it's a
Ooh.
work in progress video showing the late stage progress. So
Oh.
it's a technical test bed build, not a launch trailer. So it's just a practical look at what the game looks like currently while he's working on refining it more. Um, so yeah, it looks nice. It looks really good, and there's a little post about it, but we'll put a link to where you can watch the video and check that out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's some good stuff, and this says Parallaxian Alpinia, but I don't know if that's just um, I think it's just like the stage, like the because it looks like a mountain stage, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like that's a
This
game. It
recording is
looks
not staged, by the way, but that's a
no,
different thing.
no. Well, I mean, it kind of is staged, but yeah, it looks like the game looks really cool. Like it's really well done. He's been working on it for a while,
Hmm.
and it'll be cool to see when it's actually like there, ready for prime time.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. 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 Yeah, nice. So
Yeah.
you wanted to mention Commodore. So one of the news is, perhaps you recall it better than me, one of the key people of the 64 died recently.
Yes. Yeah. So that would be uh
You remember his name as well
yes,
as I do.
Headley. Yeah. So Headley Davis, who's a senior design engineer with Commodore, and is one of the people responsible um for Commodore and specifically the REU. In fact, I think he had something. He had a major part in that spinning globe, RAM expansion demo that they showed
Hmm.
that kind of blew people away when it first came out. He passed away very recently. Bill Hurd has been posting a lot on different groups on Facebook. I see. I think it's hit him pretty hard. They were good friends. There's been a couple of posts by the new Commodore about it. So yeah, it's a shame that we've lost another in our Commodore family, so to speak.
From the pictures, he didn't look so old,
No,
to
I
be
don't. I don't
honest.
believe that he was that old, and I don't know what happened. It's not necessarily, it's not our business. If they, but but yeah, it's a shame.
Certainly is, certainly is.
It's kind of shocking to me at all that there are so many of the people that were involved in Commodore way back when that are still with us, because a lot of times you have people that people that were involved in this in the 80s or late 70s or whenever it were would be of advanced age today and probably wouldn't be with us anymore, even if they were kind of young at the time. But we got guys like Bill Hurd, and most of the Amiga team is still around. It's
That's
there's
true.
a
That's true.
it's great that these people are still here and still like involved in this scene.
Oh yes, it says Dave Hayne is not involved. So
Right?
is
Yes,
so is
exactly.
Bill Hurd. So is Bill Hurd. Very
Yep.
involved. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty nice. So you
Yeah.
also mentioned by this automatically that Bill Hurd came back from the inactivity
Yeah, he
because I
hadn't been
remember.
posting a lot.
Yeah,
And yeah, he hadn't been posting a lot, and then he has come back to post some tributes about Headley. But
nice,
I don't know if
nice.
that means he'll be back permanently or if he's
Mm,
just back to
from hibernation. Yeah.
to pay tribute to his friend. I don't it's time will tell.
Well, I remember some episodes back in the news section we discussed whether he is voluntarily mentioned as staff of the new
It's one of the
Commodore or
it's one of the
if
Commodore questions, and I don't know. I don't recall where that information had come from. One of us had
from
seen
his
a
wife.
post.
Somebody said his wife
Right, but
said
where that
that,
post came
yeah,
from in the first place that said
yeah, the
that he
rumor that
hadn't.
spun around.
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't. So I never found. I didn't see anywhere eventually about how much validity there was to that statement that he wasn't. Um, he didn't
We,
want to be
mm,
involved, but he was still listed amongst the people involved. You would think that he would have made um, more of a stink about it if he really didn't want to be part of it. So I don't know. I don't know.
mm.
But yeah, again, time will tell if this is him coming back out of hibernation, or if it's just paying tribute to someone that he's lost.
Right, yeah. Well, I hope for us, of course, that he is back permanently because he did so much contribution to the
Well, he wasn't
scene.
he wasn't gone. He just wasn't posting on Facebook and social media. He just kind
Mm-hmm.
of he was still going to the convent, the
True,
VCF festivals, all that stuff. He was still doing that stuff.
true,
He just
true.
wasn't online, which that's I understand why people wouldn't want to post online because I don't want to post online.
So if it wasn't
Online
for
is
the
terrible.
podcast, nobody would hear about you.
Probably, yeah, yeah.
Ooh. What a lucky bastard I am to be your friend. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's all, then we should go and speak to.
André Fachat.
Yeah, yeah. So if that's all, then we should go and talk to Andre over there,
Awesome.
or over there, or
Awesome.
somewhere.
So, today we have another guest, and actually a pretty famous one, I have to say. I mean, I personally have been following you since over 10, 15 years, what you were doing in the scene,
Oh, wow.
especially surrounding the Commodore 64 and everything. We are talking to André Fachat, and well, welcome
Well,
to
it's
the show.
actually Fachat because it's a French name. But
Oh! And I was like, yes, finally,
no,
I
no,
can.
no worries. Everyone does it wrong the first time.
Okay, so André Fachat. Okay, nice to know. Well, welcome to the show, André.
Thank you for having me.
Well, so I don't know if it's exactly true, but the first time I heard about you was actually when you did a presentation long time ago about Y64 and emulation.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's true.
and I perceive you as one of the experts in the scene, in the retro scene, for emulation.
Well, I used to be, I guess, but
Okay.
since I left the Vice team, I guess it has evolved so much
Okay.
because I haven't been involved for maybe about 20, 24 years now.
Oh.
I was there in the beginning, more or less, when it was a team of 5 people or so, and we were sending out patches by email. And
Wow. Okay. Okay.
and I'm actually the original author of the PET and B series emulation,
Mm.
because at that time there was, I'm not sure, I think the C64 was there. I'm not sure if the VIC-20 was there already, or the C128. Definitely not the PET, because then I started working on that, because that PET is basically my pet machine. So as you can probably see from my other works as well.
Okay. So the other question is, so when did it start and how? What was your starting point?
You have to go back quite a while.
Feel free. That's why we are here.
It started at school. It must have been around 1980 or something. And yeah, when the VIC-20 came out, a friend of mine got one, and then the C64 came out, and around that time, and the school had a little room with first only such a big HP. Yeah, it was a computer, and it had a single line edit display and a screen where you can basically just output print stuff. And I think it had a cassette storage or something. I don't think I did really anything on that one. But very soon after that came a Commodore PET 3032 with a 3040 disk drive. DOS 1, 670 blocks free, not 664, 670 blocks free. I still have my first disk. And yeah, of course, you type in, you sit on yourself in front of the computer, you type in some basic lines, and then things start working, and you can write programs and stuff like that. And you had some storage you could actually use. Yeah, I was probably one of the few that actually then got the key to that little, I don't know, 10 square meter something room in
Wow.
where
You
they
were
had
the keymaster. Okay.
yeah, no, a couple of, I mean, 5, 6 people got the rooms. They got the key, and yeah, and then they got a 4032, and an 8032, because basically when we saw what how the printer worked and all this stuff, you could basically see that they used the printers to print out the exam results, the Zeugnisse, whatever.
Yeah,
The so
reports,
that was really
yeah.
a form, and then you see the dot matrix printer on the geography, whatever mark you had.
You mean the
Mathematics.
you mean the school grades?
Yeah, the grades, right? Exactly. So every half year you get this list, and you could see that's printed with a dot matrix printer, and I'm not sure if I dream it or if I remember it, but I think I have seen some of the the big PETs in the office and in the school at some point. Yeah. So yeah, and that's where it started, and in the end, I got a Commodore 64, and then I found out already there we had some swaps. Yeah, you swapped games and programs and stuff like that. And I got some programs from I think Transactor magazine, stuff like that. And there was one game, Breakout, which was an absolute favorite game that I played. And I tried to port it to the Commodore 64. And I couldn't do it. And I said, oh my. Now, every time I want to play that game, I have to go back to the school. What happens if I'm out of school?
Right. And now, well, one question before we continue with that. You said the PETs you had were from '83. Were those the color versions already at school?
PETs never had a color version.
Then I thought there was a color version.
No. PETs always had, or the original ones always had green screen. And I think there are some kind of secret weapons where they started putting in colored chips into the PET. And there was this it's called, I'm not sure if it's called Teacher's PET or something like that, when it was basically a Commodore 64 put into a PET case.
Yeah,
but actually, that would still have this green screen.
True. That was the Edu
Educator or something
Educator, exactly.
Yeah.
We are
something
slowly
like that.
getting there because nice.
But that still had a green screen.
Okay, interesting.
That's why they actually changed the C64 kernel ROM to use different colors, so you have the contrast. And
like the American version of the SX64 also has different colors, compared to the European PAL edition of the SX64 for the same reason.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because for our Scene World magazine, because back then in the year 2000 when we started, emulation of NTSC in Vice and all the other emulators was horrible. So I actually got an NTSC SX64 so I could test it on a real NTSC machine. And later I found out everything is in white color in the kernel on the European machine for better contrast. But on the American machine, they never changed that. So, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. You learn everything.
Instead, the American version has a color fine-tune dial because NTSC is also nicknamed Never the Same Color.
Never the same color.
Exactly. But the European version didn't have that dial, so instead they patched to the ROM. So on the European version, it would be a white ready prompt. And at first, when I saw in Germany, when I saw European SX64, I thought that this machine was modified or broken in a way. And I was like, no, that's normal. That's actually the original intended, welcome.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Now you learned something from me for a change. Yeah, anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you. You were starting to tell me you were trying to get Breakout on the Commodore 64. And
actually, I never succeeded because I never tried it again. Because then when I started, I had some program, actually in between after after school, I had one project of the month for the Commodore 64. I'm not sure if you know it. It's called BDOS, where you can actually it's for for the 128. You can use the 1571 drive to read and write DOS disks.
That's true. Yeah, that's
actually, I made a video on my YouTube channel, which I hope you will link in your show notes.
Yeah, of course. We will link to everything.
Where I actually resurrected BDOS from basically my old archives, because way back then I already had put all my Commodore disks that I had at that time onto my Atari ST hard disk. I think that, or maybe at that time. I think at that time, maybe sometime later on the PC. But anyway, so I still had the original source files and everything, and I completely modernized it. It's on GitHub now. So
nice.
Yeah. So but then after that, when I got to university, I said, okay, I had some experience with a friend of mine who was doing hardware development based on a 6502. That was during school time. He built a telephone switch computer and telephone switch. I don't know what's called, the whole thing. Like, you have all the connections with the telephones, and you can dial for conferences and forward calls and all that stuff. And that
I know it as a telephone switch box.
Yeah, maybe that's what it's called. Yeah, and that was he built the hardware with all the relays and all that stuff. And I built, or I wrote he built the 6502 computer to control it, and I wrote the software for it. And it went through quite a lot of iterations, hardware-wise and software. I think we had 3 major hardware revisions and 4 major software revisions, and then suddenly we lost interest, and we only had pulse dial. Because we didn't know how to do the frequency stuff. So, and the pulses, you could just count them. So, and then when I came to university, I said, well, that actually isn't so difficult. And in my first semester, I more or less painted some schematics of a Commodore PET clone, more or less. And started building it on Perfboard. I actually, because I prepared.
Wow.
For example, this was the very first CPU board.
Wow.
And then it evolved, because you can see here this chip here, it definitely wasn't there in the beginning. As well as this chip here.
Okay.
I don't remember what those were, but that was the CPU board, and there was a memory management unit. And the memory management unit, because I said, okay, just building a PET, looking at what the Commodore 64 can already do, I was a bit say, okay, maybe I can do something interesting in another direction. So I gave it a bus. It's a self-defined bus that has a 1 megabyte of address space, and therefore you need some way of addressing all that memory. And I decided to do it the right way. I used basically it was a 74 610. So it's a 74 series chip. Actually, you don't get it anymore. And I actually had to swear with my blood that I don't export that chip to the Eastern Bloc, whatever, because it was on the COCOM list, and because it wasn't on the PCs of that time as well. At least I have seen some or heard of some PC motherboards, early motherboards that had a variant of that chip on there as well. So and the first version, just took the upper 4 address bits and expanded it to 8, and then there you go. We have 16 blocks of 4K that you can select from that 1 megabyte of memory. And those extensions that then came later were, I think, something like write protection bits in the MMU and no execute bit. So I patched that one, and then later on I created schematics in Eagle and had it produced and all that stuff. So, but the first ones were really all like this. I have the most of the stuff is gone, but some I kept out of nostalgia.
Yeah, it's nice.
Show it.
I mean, the flying wire construction itself, very appealing,
Yeah, I also do have the video board. I'm not sure if and the video board, you can see here the bypass caps, because originally I didn't use bypass caps, of course. What I use for anyway. Yeah, I mean this is 1 megahertz LS TTL logic. You can get away with everything basically. Although it took quite a while to get the video board really working correctly, because that's of course because the machine would run at could run at 2 megahertz. The video was coupled to the bus frequency, so on 2 megahertz you had 80 colors, and on 1 megahertz you had 40 columns. Sorry, not colors, columns. And then with the shift register and all that stuff. So yeah, that was quite nice. And then I had my Commodore PET clone, and then I could play Breakout there.
So instead of making the game as a conversion on the 64, you actually cloned the hardware.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is actually still the keyboard from back then.
Wow.
And I have there is you can see that machine only half. I am not sure how much you see from the screen share, but there is this. This is basically, as you can see, I prepared.
Okay.
This is basically that's a PET clone, and I have no idea what that. Oh yeah, that I think I have no idea what that was for. Again. That's the shift lock key, because the Commodore PET has a hardware shift lock key, like the Commodore 64, and you don't get those locking keys anymore. So that's a relatively new addition where I tested it for my most modern PET, which I will talk about later. So, and there is the CPU board. There is the video board, and there you get a composite board out of the video signals. There is the and this one is the complete PET IO board. Basically, you have the PIA or something. You have the IEEE 488. You have the keyboard. So that's all the PET IO.
And the main board looks to me like an ISA slots where you put all the cards in.
No, that's actually a DIN, one of those standard connectors.
Earlier than ISA.
DIN 41612 or something.
Okay.
But they're still in use today. You can. They're actually quite common. I think the S100 bus, lots of buses have used them, and you can still get them. So they are quite common, and basically the backplane, I got it basically soldered. I think I got it already finished. Not sure, from Conrad or whatever at that time. So those were available. While I did design all these boards. The backplane is standard.
Wow. Yeah. My grandfather would have loved this, because he was our he was our hardware and electronics geek in the family. He would have totally loved that. What you just
Yeah,
said.
I mean, I have a lot of stuff that then came after that. So that's one way you can use sim modules. So I had a first one which was a lot of TTLs, but it was not reliable. And then I had a very nice chat with Bill Hurd.
Yeah, Bill Hurd
And
is amazing. Yeah.
he's absolutely fantastic. And he gave me some lessons on dynamic RAM. Because he got a lot of experience on the 128.
Oh yeah, seriously.
Also, so you can see here those in series resistors, and you can see the power caps and the terminating resistors and the extra power supplies.
Wow.
This one works, and yeah, it goes even that far that you can. There's a USB, Ethernet, and USB board. I have a couple of them, different ones. This is a DMA engine. This is actually, I think, my most integrated board so far. As you can see, there's only one made.
Wow.
Because I haven't replaced it with anything newer. Now you can basically block transfer files on that bus. So because the bus, you can stop the CPU, you can take over the bus, and then this can control it. This is just a little CPLD.
Wow. So you appear to be the male version of Jerry Ellsworth.
Too much honor, no, sorry.
I mean, she did the
She's
Commodore.
amazing.
She did the Commodore 1, and you did your own PET. I mean, that's
Yeah, but I mean, she put it in a single FPGA. I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I am, but you know, der Weg ist das Ziel. The journey is the goal. Yeah, right?
Yeah. The journey is the destination. Yeah.
So
right.
because I mean that's a hobby for me. Yeah. So
okay.
I'm not
now
earning
I
money with that.
Now I understand. Yeah.
I'm earning money in IT, but I'm doing big and complex IT solutions. I'm a lead architect for large projects and so on, and that's why I'm doing so much software during my daytime. So more or less the hardware stuff is taking more over in my hobby side.
Right.
So.
Right. I mean, because you said what? I mean, now I understand why you were disappointed when you came to Blue Sky and discussed why Gideon Schweitzer did his Starlight edition of the Ultimate 64 the way he did it with the floppy emulation, and I was actually the one. I was actually the one suggesting to you in the discussion thread, why don't you ask him directly? You know?
Yeah.
So now I totally understand, because I knew you basically for your achievement on the software side. But now I'm learning you are so big on the hardware level as well. So now I understand why you were, puzzled about his way of doing things, and you were comparing it to how Wise is doing it, so
yeah, exactly. I mean, Wise is software. I worked on that, and I told you about beaters. Probably Geckos, my 6502 operating system, because actually if you have an MMU, you can put it to good use, right? And therefore I have no idea where I got the idea from. I got this question asked before, because maybe at that time there was this transition from Windows, the DOS-based Windows, to Windows NT or something like that around that time. And I said, well, heck, preemptive multitasking, I mean, that can't be so difficult. And actually it isn't. Yeah. Okay. It's in hindsight, yeah, but and I'm not the first one. I saw on the 6502 org forum somewhere. There's a one page, or in some old magazine or something. There is a one page, very little small one page task switcher. That's not. Once you understand how it works, what's getting interesting is how those tasks communicate, and then there it gets tricky because you have to make sure you get your sync points right. If you have to do mutexes, if semaphores, what is shared memory, how do you update it, and all that stuff. So that's really that's where it gets interesting.
I mean, I also got an IT degree, but I'm not an expert on this level like you, of course. But I mean,
yeah, it's actually self-taught because I'm a physicist by education.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm older than you, so I guess.
Yeah.
So
I just got I just turned 44 last week, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite older than you.
Okay.
But yeah, that actually I studied physics, and while I was studying physics, I built the computer on the side. I was doing some jobs to get some money on the side for IBM at the Scientific Research Center IBM had in Heidelberg, where I was studying.
Heidelberg, really? So
Yeah.
because I'm in Mannheim, which is just around the
No
corner.
way.
Yes.
Yeah, 20 kilo. I live in Heddesheim. So.
Okay, so not so far.
Yeah, we can actually meet in person at some point.
Yeah, sure. I mean, certainly. I mean, I was planning to interview for the podcast since 10 years or something. I never checked out where you actually are located because most people don't live close to me. I know the retro scene is more in Hessia, Frankfurt, Offenbach, this direction.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Or in other regions like Bavaria. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's pretty far. Yeah. I'm always a bit struggling when Gamescom is there and we have our booth to present our magazine there, and then like 2 hours in the train. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah, I mean, certainly we should meet up so I can see your
yeah, you can come by and see my collection and
exactly
my workshop.
Yeah. Yes, your how do you say it in English? Manhole or
man cave.
Man cave. That was exactly the expression, man cave. I totally forgot it. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not totally without my own nerd thing. I mean, how many people do you know having an arcade cabinet in their living room? So.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's actually my work area. I just grabbed all that stuff from my workshop down in the basement. And as you can see here from the roof, this is under the roof, right?
True.
So yeah.
Wonderful for summer.
Yeah, actually, now that we have
air conditioning,
now that we have a photovoltaic generator, now I don't have bad conscience that I actually have an air condition.
Okay.
Because when the sun shines and it's hot, then you have enough power. So
yeah, I mean, I know people who in those 8 weeks we have pretty hot weather in Germany. I know people who don't switch on their retro computers because they are fearing they would die, But honestly, I'm fearless. I don't really care. I still do that.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm actually doing less with the actual old computer because most of them basically sit in my presentation board. So I have one. I can't show it right now.
No worries.
But what I'm currently working on is that hardware, and that's the pad I'm currently working on.
Oh.
That's my PET replica, the Ulti-PET, oh come on, with a 3D printed case, and you can see it.
Wow.
So yeah, all in there with all that stuff. So yeah, and that's what I'm mostly working on, because actually, after all, you can only do so much with an original PET. Although it's so amazing what they did with that, what they did with those demos on the 8296 on the PET. With the CRTC, where they basically reprogrammed the CRTC chip on the fly, more or less completely freely. That's so freaking amazing.
I mean, the demo scene is really amazing. I mean, some years ago they made a demo on the 1541, so not running on the C64, but on the floppy disk drive.
Yeah, which one? The video output or the cumulator? You know,
I don't
Commodore
know which
history.
one it was, but it was. I know they made an adapter cable to take a black and white color signal from the 1541 and connect it to the CRT TV. That I guess that was also the first one, but I don't remember which of the two it is.
No, I think that was a few years ago or so.
Yes,
but just recently,
ago.
the Commodore History channel had put out a demo on the 1541 with unmodified hardware, just a new ROM, and you can run the Kim ROM.
The Kim one.
That was the first video, and I think the second video was he was basically running BASIC and still had disk access, just load, save. That's all. You could run, and the output was on the IEC bus, repurposed as RS-232 serial interface.
Wow. Okay.
So you could connect that to a serial terminal, and then talk to the 1541, and then to load, program, blah blah blah, run, type in your basic programs. I mean, 100 bytes of basic memory or something like that. But wow, that was amazing.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean, we stopped a bit at the point where you were explaining to me that the Vice team only had 5 people. Perhaps we can continue that story a bit. I don't know how much you ever shared about those early days of working for the Vice team, and of course, in the hindsight, it would also interest me, why did you decide to leave it at some point? If you can elaborate a bit on the details.
Okay.
If you can.
Yeah, sure. I just have to take a trip down memory lane. Yeah, I actually had started my own emulator, which is terminal based, and which I actually resurrected to get an emulator for that self-built, for the new PET, and for my old PET as well. But it only started. I had basically, I don't know if it was basic Commodore 64 basic, or if it was PET basic running, and more or less on a curses interface, and you in a terminal window, you could do. It was basically emulating a screen in 40 by 25 characters. So, and then somehow over the internet, CompSys, CBM, or whatever, the news group, that was the way the community connected over back in the days. If anyone still knows USCP news groups. And I think the CBM hackers mailing list, maybe it did already exist back then. I got in contact with the Vice team, because when Vice was coming out at that time, and I said, okay, well, they are much more advanced than I am. They already had a graphical display, and all that stuff. So I got involved into Vice, and I said, okay, yeah, cool. I can do the PET emulator, for example. I did a lot of work on the CIA timing, which we developed test programs, or not sure. I didn't exactly develop all the test programs. I more used them to test them to test my implementation. So that was quite a time. That was when I was still at university, and then I don't remember why I left it for a while. I think I got I had to finish my PhD, which I was doing, and then I got a new job and everything, so priorities shifted. And then I had to wait to find. There were not really regulations about open source work in parallel to the normal job, and just don't want to risk anything. And besides that was the big e-commerce time. I started working for IBM in 1999. The e-commerce was a big hype. I was doing a web shop for a big company, really big company that in the end then had billions of revenue on that, just with that web portal that we built and I was just out of university, more or less. Quickly got into that, and that took a lot of time. So the hobby then got less priority. I got back into Vice again, I think for a year or two, maybe. I don't remember exactly. And but then it somehow faded away a little bit, all that stuff. And as I said, I was doing lots of software stuff on the job, and then maybe it was more on the hardware side. And there's one thing, and that's maybe why I keep going back to the retro stuff, is because it doesn't change so quickly. when you look at modern IT, it changes so quickly. You have one hype cycle every 1 or 2 years, or it's getting faster and faster. And if you don't have time to take care of something every few weeks or so, you get behind if that's relying on new technology. If you go back to retro, that's still the same.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, in the recent years, there have also been some amazing developments. Think about the super kernel for the Commodore 64. I was like, oh my god, I have Wi-Fi, and I can download the games directly from an FTP and play it on the C64 without any conversion into discs and so on. I was totally stoked. So there have been some development, but I understand, comparing to modern PC, it's very slow. That's the thing with IT. You always have to catch up, I guess.
Yeah. So that's my solution to that problem for the PET. That's a small Arduino connected via USB serial to PC. And on the PC there's a server, and you can actually open quote TCP : hostname blah 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 blah, stuff like that, and comma X I think is bidirectional channel, and so something like that. I mean, it used to work. I think I broke it at some point in the development. I haven't used it much anymore. So and now for my new pad, I have a plan to do a new video on the current development, and the main thing that is missing is basically internet access. And I could use this one. I could use Meatloaf, not Meatloaf. Oh God, Resweet? Nee. Oh, wie heißt denn das? What's the name of that again? let me check that for a moment.
No problem.
There is the Fujinet community, and they have a device for the Commodore 64. So you can use that one to tap into Fujinet, and Fujinet has a real ecosystem, and it's for not just for Commodore, it's Apple, Atari, MSX, all that stuff. They have written games that run cross-platform, stuff like that.
Amazing, yeah.
So, and if you give me a sec,
sounds a bit like Contiki, what Adam Dunkels did, like 15 years ago or something.
Yeah, I haven't tried it though. I'm not sure how much there is actually. Can you maybe you can tell me more about that, because I'm actually
I did an interview with Adam Dunkels about it.
Oh, okay.
If you're
I should
curious,
I definitely am.
It was pretty hard to get him because he was not very approachable. So actually had to find the phone number of his sister, which gave me the phone number of his wife, and and she gave the phone to him, and this way I got in touch with him. So I was actually spending 3 hours on Swedish telephone books, finding any phone numbers of the Dunkel family. So that was quite an effort.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course his wife was super pissed that a stranger from Germany would call her phone number.
Yeah.
She was not happy about this.
I think it's actually it is called Meatloaf.
Really? Okay.
Kate and yeah, I'm on the Fujinet Discord and I'm trying to find it, but
when you said Meatloaf, I thought about a band that was
the singer.
Exactly, the singer.
Yeah. I would do anything for love and so on. Yeah. I know. I think we'll put it in the notes when I find it.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's why what I really like that they have that cross pollination. They have a real community. You can hear Apple 8-bit, Apple 16-bit, Commodore Intellivision, MS-DOS, MSX, and so on. So that's what I'm thinking about tapping into. I know those communities, Commodore communities, and this community, and so sometimes are quite separated for whatever reason. Because I have no idea why. Because I like getting in contact with
we had some brief experience with the Amiga community, and that was half of a shit show. Oh my god. Because we had, for 2 issues, we had an Amiga version, and we wanted to run it on an emulator on our website, and we were actually considering getting an Amiga OS license for the web browser version. And then there has been a law issue between the 2 people, the 2 companies who insist that both of them own the rights, and they were like, yeah, you're getting license from us, but be prepared that the other party might sue you. So we approached the other party and they said the same. Yeah, but they were like, okay, we are not doing either of that. So that's too risky,
Yeah,
so
I hope they're getting to their senses now with new Commodore in the mix, and that they get back together, because infight is just not. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, so it was like, oh my god. So and it's interesting because for centuries there was always this Atari and Amiga. Which one is better? And then it was like, well, you don't need Atari. You have fights in between the Amiga scene already.
Yeah. By the way, I didn't switch to the Amiga when I got when I went beyond the Commodore 64. I switched to the Atari ST actually.
Interesting.
Because there was at that time when they were both there, I weighted them, and I said, okay, I have one where the operating system is more or less stable and all that stuff, and it's got a cool black and white monitor with crisp, sharp view, as you can use for programming. And while at the same time the Amiga OS was bombing its that Guru meditating its way through life
Right.
all the time. But of course, Amiga OS got better and better and better, and Atari basically stayed the same because Atari was more. It also evolved, but on the ST I had, because that was a machine that's coming from Jack Tramiel, and that was basically like a Commodore 64. You have it, and that's it, more or less. So in the end, I probably should have gone Amiga, but on the other hand, I really like the black and white, the crisp screen. It helped me programming, do programming. Basically, what I did is when I built that the original one here, I had the programming environment on the Atari ST. So if you know the XA65 assembler.
I never learned assembler, I have to admit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had C++ in my IT education, and I was like, this is horrible enough. I will not go down the programming route. I'm sorry. It's not for me. Not for me.
No worries. But the old machines, you basically have to program in assembler, and I wrote a cross assembler on my Atari ST. And I had basically a precursor of that one on my Atari ST. So I was using the hard disk of my Atari ST as a disk for my 8-bit machines. My Commodore 64 had an IEEE 488 interface. I'd even modified my 1541 with an IEEE 488 interface. So it was actually a 2031. And therefore I then did the programming on my Atari ST, and then just ran it on the loaded it on my machine, and then, so that was then very nice, because then I could do lots of stuff in larger programs and doing the operating system. By the way, one of my recent videos is because when I got my Ultimate, before I unboxed this one, I unboxed my old one again from 40 years ago or so, and then it was still working actually. So
I mean, your video became kind of famous. I mean, we discussed it in one of our past episodes in the news section, because you actually discovered that if you unscrew and screw the keyboard differently in a different order, you can actually make it going less bent on pressure.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid to take things apart.
Yeah.
At least those retro stuff. And I mean, this is not retro stuff, but then when I was putting that on the table.
Oh, a Dallas Moore case, a transparent one.
No, this is the Ultimate. This is the new one.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I totally misdetected that. Yeah. But I know that Dallas Moore also made a flat case in transparent. That.
Why do you ask that stuff?
Because I was a backer myself.
I'm not sure if that is from Dallas Moore, but it was from the first editions where they actually had resurrected the original.
Yes, that was from Dallas Moore. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and of course I put in the first edition of my Micro PET.
Amazing. Yeah.
And including the PET keyboard.
And the story goes on like that. That when Dallas Moore finished his Kickstarter project and sold off his stock on eBay, he actually sold the mold to Jens Schönfeld. So
Yeah. I think that was from before when Jens got those.
Exactly. Yeah, Jens decided for whatever reason to not go with the transparent case.
Yeah, I like that Kickstarter, and I really wanted. I actually sold the red and blue ones that I actually got. I have 2 transparent ones. The second one I will probably put in the large version of my replica.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you don't mind the question. Now that you tinker so much with hardware and software yourself, you are living in both worlds. I mean, many people don't do that. A lot of people either are hardware or software people. A software person or hardware person. So when you approach a new product, for example, the Starlight edition of the Ultimate 64, which is actually a Gideon Schweitzer design from the Netherlands, or when you look at stuff from Jens Schönfeld and so on, do you sometimes think like, I would have done it better or differently?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? Isn't it that way?
You know where my motivation for that came from? Because I had that long on my list to put basically this onto this.
Wow.
Which is basically a micro PET.
Uh-huh.
And then I didn't even have schematics or whatever. And then what came out? The mini PET. And I said, okay, yeah, that's probably what I should have done. But frankly, how they did it is kind of, unimaginative, because it is really just a reproduction of the original PET, nothing more. So I decided, okay, come on, I can do better, because this one already has VGA. Actually, the first one started with more or less normal TV output like the original one, and but I already had USB. I could put all that stuff together, and I had the first one still had normal ROM, and then I patched it up like this one, and ended up sometimes in stuff like this. When you do your stuff and it doesn't work. And that is, I think this is the 3rd. Where's the version number? This is actually the 2nd major iteration. Yeah. Of that board. Where there's already more or less for a PET replica, it's in a way feature complete, because it's got all the PET I/O. It's got a modern video. I'm planning on going to HDMI at some point, but it's got USB for keyboard. There is a connector for an Ethernet adapter, which is for which I actually have the TCP/IP stack from Adam Dunkel's running. There's for a SD card, where I'm using the Commander X16 code. That is actually from Michael Steil. He actually gave it to X16. That's where, and I found out that was public domain, and I could use it in my as well. Yeah. So and but the point. Oh, I think the case here is breaking apart. Okay. It's self-printed. So sometimes I think, of course, it gives me motivation to do something. On the other hand, yeah, sometimes you just have to live with stuff like that because you can't do everything. Yeah.
Right. You're only one
Because
person.
I mean,
Yeah.
why should I now go in and try and find something in the firmware of the Commodore Ultimate to make the disk drive emulation faster?
Mm.
Yeah, because that's not my work. That's his work, and he's way over my head, way beyond me, my capabilities in doing that all stuff in one FPGA or so. Yeah, I have the CPU. I have the video part in the.
You are very modest as a person. I see.
Yeah. I'm working on that
I
actually.
mean,
So
I mean, I mean,
if you look at that, that's the next. I showed you the PET IO board, so that's the next version. Everything goes into an FPGA as well, and then I can combine those two FPGAs, and then maybe I'm at some level, and then HDMI, and then maybe I'm at some level of what Gideon is doing, but still he's way ahead of me. Yeah.
I mean, you are not designing commercial products, right?
No.
You're not
No,
selling.
that's all. It's all open source.
Stuff. Right.
It's all on. It used to be on my own homepage, but it's on GitHub now. The old stuff is still there on my own homepage. You can get those schematics, right? You can still get them, and those are scans of hand drawn schematics. And yeah, and then at some point you get Eagle design files, and for a few years now I'm moving to KiCad, which is quite cool actually. So once you get, my problem, as I said, you don't want to have everything changes all the time, because you put on too much energy in just keeping up instead of doing something you really want to do. So for example, I'm still on the Spartan 6 FPGA, because I have my virtual machine with the WebEase from Xilinx running on it, where I know, okay, that won't change because it's in maintenance mode. If I have to go to the next newer generation, I have to go to the new generation, which is a completely different product.
What worries me a lot, and I'm saying this to a lot of hardware tinkerers, is there's no effort to make hardware-based replicas of the 1541 or 1581 disk drives. So, I mean, behind me in the IKEA cupboard, I have tons of physical discs, tons of 5.25-inch DD discs, and in my sleeping room I have a lot of spare 1541 drives, but I wish somebody would do replacements of the drive mechanics, and not only software emulation, you know.
Yeah, that's really difficult. When you said doing a replica, because 1581, I did one in 2006. Because you take a different CPU board and a different I/O board for that same bus. You stick them together, configure them correctly, put in the ROM, and then you can run. You can attach a standard PC 3.5-inch floppy disk.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, if you're talking mechanics, that's gonna be difficult. I have about 8250 or 1001 disk drive from the PET, which are the 1 megabyte per disk, and they all slowly dying the death of the upper read-write head.
You see, yeah, and that's the problem, and the solutions by the hardware scene is like, yeah, now we have a GoTech drive, nice. or another ultimate 1541 revision. And I'm like, nah, I would like to have, the disk
Yeah.
drive itself, because I have tons of 1541, and of course, you can nibble those disks now within 5071. You can even replicate all the copy protection on a disk image, but it's still not the same as original drive. Still
Yeah.
not the same. Still not the same. So it doesn't satisfy me to have a software solution. I would like to have
Yeah,
a hardware
that's right.
solution. That's
It
my
is.
that's
I
my
mean,
thing.
I have a different kind of thinking because I say, okay, that's mechanical, that will break at some point, something that cannot be repaired because, for example, those disk drives that I just mentioned, they are 100 TPI tracks per inch. All other disk drives are 96 tracks per inch. So you could probably put in another disk drive that's then incompatible with your original disk. So, but yeah, hell, whatever. Yeah, so my goal always basically was because to actually replace the disk drives.
Yes, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's what I use this for because I have a shared medium on a hard disk or on a server somewhere, and I could just download the files from there and don't have those disks. I never needed a fast loader on my 64 because I had the IEEE 488 interface. Because that IEEE 488 interface is by itself, I think I did some measurements, 3 to 8 times faster, 3 to 5 times, maybe 5 times faster than the Commodore, than the serial bus. Yeah. So, and I was mostly doing programming work on that. Of course, I did play games, yeah, but those then where you didn't have. I don't remember. Yeah, I can't really. At some point, I got me a second 1541, but to be honest, um, I don't. Most of the games then work without fast loader. I mean, slow but working.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I also remember why I got this info wrong about the color pad. I remember like 12 years ago, I made an interview with Chuck Peddle, and he was the one who told me
Oh,
that he was actually working on a color pad edition. Yeah, so that is why I got this wrong, I believe. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, did I mention before that Steve Gray has been doing color pad conversions?
Yeah, I just found the color pad project page while we were
Yeah,
talking.
and
Yeah.
actually, this is
Steve J. Gray.
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
He
Yeah.
calls himself CBM Steve. Okay. cbmsteve.ca. That's his homepage. Interesting. Yeah.
You can actually, if you look here, where is it?
He made a digital and an analog version of the.
Huh?
He made a
Yeah,
digital and
okay.
an
Sorry.
analog version of the diagram for the
Yeah.
color pad.
He's a great guy. He's also doing a lot of expansion work. He's more working on the original pets, but he's also doing replicas of other machines. And he's got a lot of keyboard stuff. That's very cool. And I actually took his PET N keyboard and expanded it. You can see his copyright here. Maybe not because it's too small, but
It's too small.
it's got the backlighting LEDs and it's got 2 Arduinos here, one for the key scan, so you can remap the keys, and one for the LED controller. You can have effects, everything. I'm as I said, I'm planning an update video on the Ultipad. Hopefully before May 1st, because May 1st is I'm on the Vintage Computer Festival Europe in Munich. So I'm going to present that stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. So another person I just learned about we should probably talk to. Quite interesting.
Yeah. So if you look at my history, because maybe that's what you want to talk about. And it faded away a little bit. It faded away a little bit when I got into the job and got more responsibility, and so on. And at some point, I also decided at some point that's IT, that's my job, and 8-bit is my hobby. So I could separate that good. And then I had it in low profile for a while, and I was slowly putting out new boards like the SCSI interface or the USB Ethernet stuff and so on. And then I think somewhat, I think maybe I should thank them, but maybe it was really the mini pad that was putting that up, putting that more interest in that. I actually shelved more or less 2 projects, but still in a way that I can resurrect them. One is another multi-master network similar to the IEC bus, but with hardware shift registers. With multi-master collision detection and all that stuff. I think I already have the first boards, which are for the PET user port, by the way, somewhere in the basement. And the other one that came in because I wrote an article on my webpage on the on how floppy disks actually record data, the encoding, like FM encoding, MFM encoding, GCR encoding, Apple encoding, stuff like that, comparing them a bit. And I have designs, and I think I also already have some boards in the basement where that you can plug into your Apple. The plan is to read Commodore disk with the Apple, and also build an own disk controller for the Apple. I'm definitely not getting as good as Steve Wozniak. I think he did it in, I don't know, 5 or 6 chips. I think I need 2 more. And then what I have here, this is the newest edition. Basically, this is the big one in the black, the Ultipad. This is basically an Ultipad because you have all the modern stuff here. You have dual SID, for example. Did I mention that? You have serial IEC, so you can use the Commodore 64 floppy, the 1541, and so on. And actually, the fast mode of the 1581. This is the PET IO, still the old one. This is the oldest one, basically, like more or less the one from 20 years ago. And this is the CPU card. And I got a new bus card, and this time it's self-designed, as you can see here. It's got this connector that actually plugs into here. So you can use that as an expansion board for the Ultipad, or you can use it standalone like so, like here. And you can see here there's some slots, and there are some slots, and there are some slots, and maybe can you guess what they are?
Not sure.
Okay, so this one is a SwiftLink, so I guess you know that. That's
SwiftLink. Yeah, of course, I know
that. That's a 64 slot.
Wow.
So you can use I/O cards from the Commodore 64. You could probably. I'm pretty sure you can also map the memory that's in there. But yeah, I don't care about memory. I'm interested in the I/O here. This is RC 2014. I got 2 slots here. This is an LED board just for testing. And those are blasphemy. I hear people call blasphemy Apple II.
Okay.
You can put in Apple II slots here. I tested it with a serial card as well.
Wow.
And I hope if I manage get enough time, because I have some update on the case here in the works in Munich May 1st. I hope I can. My plan is to bring in the Apple II disk card and an Apple II disk drive and plug it in and do some testing there.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm not for infighting, I mean, I have my ideas about the Apple II because I think it's, and that's maybe you mentioned most people follow either the software or either the hardware route.
That's true. Yeah.
I think I'm more really onto the solution side. I'm trying to balance that out. So, for example, when I hear that people are bit banging stuff on I/O ports, I say that's waste of CPU time, because that's so easy to remedy in hardware. Usually, you just have a shift register, for example. On the other, the Apple II, for example, is so optimized for cost, because it was at that time. Probably it wouldn't have taken off that otherwise, yeah.
True.
But it's so optimized for cost. It has maneuvered itself into an edge it can't really escape, because the 6580-816 processor, the 16-bit version of the 6502, that's actually slower than it could have been, because Apple wanted to use it in the GS, Apple II GS, and if it was faster than it is now, as fast as it could have been, it would have broken the disk routines.
Right.
Yeah, so that's something where I have on one side I have a strong opinion that I would never do it that way, but on the other hand, I probably would have done it that way back in the days, because you were forced to do that because you had to get the cost down. Right?
I had a similar discussion in my interview with Jacques Petal, where he spoke about why the floppy bus was so slow, but that was more like a time pressure thing. He didn't get enough time to fix it, and that was basically more like a Jack Tramiel time pressure thing than cost reduction. But yeah.
You mean on the VIC-20 or on the 64?
I think it wasn't the C64. I think it was VIC-20, because C64, Chuck Petal wasn't involved anymore in Commodore. He was long gone at that point.
Yeah, right. Because but I'm not even sure if he was involved at that time in the when the VIC-20 was doing the serial bus, because I made a video on the VIA shift register bug, which is the cause that they had to do the bit banging instead of using the shift register of the VIA, which would have made it as fast as the IEEE 488 bus. And I found and I made a video on that, and unfortunately, only later I found the version of the data sheet of the VIA that exactly showed that scenario where you had two VIAs connected just with the VIA shift register data and clock lines. So where they said, yeah, you can send out data back and forth like that. And that has been that section has been removed from the later data sheets. And I tested several versions of the chips, and I had Dave from the Commodore History channel. He tested some other versions of the VIAs, and they all had the bug. Even the new one from Western Design Center have the bug.
Yeah, I have to admit I don't remember everything from my 3 hours interview with him, but I see I have to email you a lot of interviews and stuff after we finish the interview today, because we keep mentioning other people's invention today. So yeah, and I spoke to all those people. Yeah, so it probably
Yeah, it's
it's
amazing. I
interesting for you.
looked through, but I really must have missed it.
Yeah. It's no problem. It's no problem. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, next to the podcast, I used to have a separate historical interview section on the homepage, and there we have more like the historical inventor
Mm.
interviews. For example, Jacques Peddle, Adam Dunkels, and also for example, Marty Cooper, who invented the mobile phone, also,
Mm. Nice.
um, or Forrest Moser, who invented speech synthesis. Those people, not necessarily connected to the Commodore
Mm. Okay.
universe. So yeah. So I definitely have to send you the link to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I actually got quite some fame because I was the last person who interviewed Ralph Baer, who was known to be the inventor of the first home console, the first home video game console.
Okay.
Yeah, the Magnavox. You
Magnavox.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Magnavox.
And
Okay.
at this time, I didn't know that he had cancer, and I was the last
No.
person who interviewed him. And shortly after I released the interview, I learned that he died from cancer. So
Mm.
yeah, he never told me. I mean,
Yeah, sad.
I sent out this interview email inquiry, and an hour later he was like, "Yeah, sure, let's meet." And yeah, and this is how I became the last person who spoke to him for an interview. Yeah, just to have a bit of a background, because I
Mm.
see I didn't tell you everything in our little email conversation, of course, because you don't want to
Yeah.
bribe about the other people you've interviewed before you invite another guest. It's wouldn't
No,
be
no, no
very
worries.
professional. Wouldn't be very professional.
No,
Um,
no worries.
but at this point, I was more focused on your software side, and now I'm learning you're also big on the hardware universe. So.
Yeah. Actually, I'm also doing a lot of software stuff on that machine, but this is more like integrating because
Mm-hmm.
I modified the basics so that you basically have a Commodore 64 compatible jump table. I have integrated. You can the SD card you can just use as a disk drive, load save, whatever, open, close. No? Um, the serial IEC bus you can use just as a disk drive. So I had to patch the kernel and all that. You can actually control the LED lights of the keyboard via I2C because I2C has a device number now in the version of BASIC that this one has, and it's got 2 serial lines. You can actually run that machine on USB-C
Wow.
from your PC, and that also serves as a serial line.
So it's like 5 volts.
It's 5 volts USB-C. It's got a step-up converter, 49 volts for the SID
Uh-huh.
and the tape. There's actually one question that I have that I'll ask in the video is if I should require power delivery USB PD power supplies. Because I actually built a small power supply for this one here for the replacement for this little contraption, where you can see this is the old from an old PC floppy drive. Where I used to power it from an old PC power supply, but now that's a barrel controller where I still only got 5 volt out of it. But downstairs, this I didn't bring up. It's brand new. I built a small USB PD converter that actually requests 20 volts or 15 volts and downsteps it to 5 volt and 12 volt.
Mm-hmm.
So you can run that on USB PD. And that is something I could put in here, but then it would have special requirements for the USB power supply. So
now the question is it hard to get by, or can you easily get those power supplies?
Mixed emotions, because actually in our household, most of them don't have the are not there yet, because they're probably too old, because we don't throw them away and just reuse them. And the fast ones are basically used for our phones.
Okay.
So I don't have that many of them actually. So I tend to still use the 5-volt version of that. Although in terms of reducing part count and all that stuff, maybe in a few years I will move to that, because when power supplies are commonplace everywhere. Yeah. So, for example, there's I mean the next, as shown here, this is the next version of the I/O, and this not only has the PET user port, but also the B series user port. It's got a B series keyboard. This is my new PET keyboard. This is IEEE 488. This is serial. There's the RS-232. This is serial IEC. So this is programmable. I'm currently working on that one. So you can basically emulate either a PET or a B series with that board, because as far as I know, there's no hardware replacement or hardware rebuild of a B series machine yet. So, and the main board with the CPU, that's got an FPGA for all the memory management anyway, so should be doable. But
yeah. With all your knowledge, I wish you were more into the commercial hardware development business. I mean, there are other people in that business. I know Jens Schoenfeld, he is kind of famous, and Jerry Ellsworth too.
So I don't have them here. I was writing to Hitachi and Rockwell, and I don't remember, maybe some else. Can I have your data handbooks? Because there was no internet at that time. How do you get those? You have to have data sheets somewhere, and so they were printed on books, and you could get them. And they actually sent me some.
You see, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
in the end, I ended up getting no solution to my problem. I returned the device and got my money back,
Mm.
unfortunately. And nowadays I'm just using Warp 64, and with Ethernet, just within 28 seconds, I can transfer disks, and super fast. That's how I do it
Warp
nowadays.
64 is what? Sorry, I'm not in the 64 scene that much.
Warp 64 is from Smash Designs. It's a client program for the PC, and it runs a server and on the C64, and it's actually using the retro replay and the RRNet Ethernet card.
Yeah.
And with the RRNet Ethernet card, but I got the first revision that actually required an action replay, not the third revision that would be standalone. But with Warp Copy, it's using kind of a burst mode of the 1541, and it's just transferring it into within 28 seconds with Verify. So it's a lot better than having an X1541 cable, for example, because those became out of fashion because new motherboards don't have LTP ports anymore. So so I went that route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I said, the precursor of that one was on my Atari ST. I unsoldered the ROM port of my Atari ST. and use it as a parallel port, because and then had an IEEE 488 interface, and that then evolved into a similar device for the PC LPT port. Until I then, that's very much later, then said, okay, let's put that on an Arduino Nano. Yeah, but that software, actually it's an XS1541, still has the same software, so I got that on my, yeah. But actually the RNet, something like that, or there is this room-based Wi-Fi modules. Those are the other options to get the Ultipat to the internet. So I actually do have a module, such a room-based ESP-based Wi-Fi module. But I don't know yet if I should go that way or if I should use something over the IEEE bus or whatever. So that's going to be one of the big questions in my upcoming video. Yeah, because I mean, this is actually the first one, more or less, where I know someone has actually built it. So someone else has built it. So 2 or 3 people have actually taken these designs and have built themselves their own MicroPET and Ultipat, or at least MicroPET. I don't remember. Yeah, I know that. I think that makes me proud, and I'm. When you mention commercial software, commercial product development, I don't have the time for that.
Okay.
That's my point, right?
Yeah, but you have the advantage. You have the whole picture. You are in the software department and the hardware department. I mean, obviously, you are not a unicorn. I mean, we in the podcast we also had Scotty Allen, who's also known as the iPhone guy, who built his own iPhone 2007 from parts of the tech market in China, and he is like you. He is a studied software engineer, but he's tinkering with hardware as his free time, and now he's a YouTuber and makes a living out of it. But it's similar to your story. But of course he's not into retro. He's into modern.
Yeah,
hardware.
I mean,
yeah.
I actually, when I heard that Adrian from Adrian's Digital Basement, when he said he was giving up his day job and only doing videos, I would say, okay, doing the retro stuff, living on the videos. I wish him all the best. It seems he's making it, but looking okay, and he has way larger audience than me. So.
I mean, I mean, it also depends on what your behavior is in the scene. I mean, I tried interviewing the 8-bit guy, one of the biggest YouTubers in the Commodore 64 8-bit scene, and he was like, nah. And then a year ago, he was like, yeah, YouTube stuff is going down, my views are going down, and I'm like, yeah, well, we invited you to push you a little, but you were like, no, I don't need that.
Yeah, but that's also one of the reasons yeah, it's a nice perk if YouTube asks you, do you want your channel to be monetized?
Yeah.
But after a couple of months, I'm falling out of that again because I'm not doing I'm not doing enough videos over time, or
Right.
I think that was after my VIA shift register bug video, which got 16,000 views, or 16,000. Come on, it's nothing.
Yeah.
But so it's a nice perk if YouTube asks you to do that. But on the other hand, with all the legal stuff, you have to basically get a register business or stuff like that. Well, it's not worth it. And then you actually have to make sure you put out enough content all the time. And then I'm not interviewing lots of people where I get, but I'm mostly doing my own stuff and have some ideas about topics that I could do. So I just don't have enough content to do that. So, but I'm happy with that because that's my hobby.
Right, right. You still made a name out of yourself in the
I mean, come
retro
on,
scene.
I just get a quick start. I mean, my web page has a copyright from starting from 1989. Because that's when I first published some pages on my on the account where I did, on the university where I did my PhD or something like that. Because that has the email address still there.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's like that, you know.
So
It's
I just
really,
had a head start. So
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's important we have people like you know, because one thing that I always realize when I watch, younger YouTubers, and they're often getting their facts wrong. And not only YouTubers, but also people on other forums like Lemon64. I remember reading a discussion about which Commodore printers had text mode and which had graphics mode, and they were like, yeah, I think, I believe, I remember. It was like, no, man, you're totally wrong. You know, two
yeah,
minutes on Wikipedia to look it up, and they're like, so the problem is certain knowledge is just being lost,
yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah,
because
yeah.
people no longer research correctly, or they, it seems
Yeah,
like, yeah.
opinion is worth more than fact, and that's a
Exactly,
shame.
exactly, yeah, yeah. But then, of course, there are also exceptions. I mean, 2 years ago, um, I interviewed um, somebody from Italy. Now uh, Soraya's Ethic, Digital Ethic. That's her channel name, and she is like 22, Italian,
Yeah, she
and
makes nice videos. Yeah,
yeah, you know her, and
yeah,
she is really. I'm like, yeah. Now the knowledge is safe because we have people, you know, Gen Z or what you call them nowadays, and there are still people researching correctly in their 20s
yeah,
about stuff long before they were even born. You know, and I was like, yeah, but
absolutely.
those, of course, those people are rare. Those people are
Yeah,
rare. You
yeah,
know, yeah.
yeah, indeed. Yeah, so but I got a scientific education, and that helped me ever since because you know how to you understand what is an assumption that you need to verify and gives you a way to actually do that. You put in your hypothesis. You check that the hypothesis is actually something that tells you something. You can verify it, and that helps you. For example, for the VIA shift register bug, then I just wrote test programs that where you can actually see it works, and then I put in the generally accepted fix with that latch that fixes that clock problem, and you can see then the bug goes away, and so you can. That's all you have to do that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting that you know her. So you are keeping in touch with even the younger people. You know. So it's good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, I mean, I like everything retro, so that's and of course I'm probably not getting all the notifications from her channel, but yeah, but to be honest, most of the people in the retro community are not the youngest ones.
Yeah, that's true. I was born '82, and I remember when I was joining the scene in on the 1st of April '98. That's what actually the date, and people were like, "You have no idea about retro. You are too young. Who cares if you were 8 when you got your first C64? That's too young. What are you doing here?" You know.
Nah, but that's not no. I mean that's crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
So
I cherish every moment when I see young people getting interested in stuff like that, and it's always interesting to discuss them. That's why I go to the classic computing event from Verein zum Erhalt klassischer Computer, or the German basically classic computing club, for our English speaking.
yeah.
And that's why I go to vintage computer festivals. So I have two regular events where I go to, which is the one in Munich around May 1st, and the one in, I don't know, September, October from the classic computing club. So this year it's in Celle, which is quite some distance away, but I hope I can make it.
True. Yeah, it's one of those events that are internationally. I remember there was also one in Austria, in Vienna, some years ago. And yeah.
Yeah, one of the classic computing events was in Thionville in France,
Oh,
um,
even. Okay, I didn't know
which
that
is
one. Okay.
somewhat Alsace, Lothringen, which is close to the German border. So that I was there as well, but only as a visitor. I didn't do an exhibit there, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Um, that was very nice. Um, yeah, I had planned to go to the US, but to go to Vintage Computer Festival East at some point, but maybe I have to look for some event in Toronto, in Canada.
The politics are not making it easy, right?
Yeah, because actually, that's an interesting thing I found is the communities from Germany or Europe. Not, I can't talk about all of Europe, but Germany and the US are somewhat also again separate again. Yeah, so I know there are some people like Steve Gray, who's actually on the German forum as well, and maybe some other guys. And I'm on the on the 6502.org forum, and I'm on the Vintage Computer Federation forum, but I look there only occasionally. But I don't see much cross pollination. But maybe
That's why we
people
did
post
Scene World.
too
That's why
little.
we did Scene World.
Yeah,
That was the whole point.
yeah, very
To
good.
have something that unites the thing. And I remember when I had the idea for Scene World in the year 2000, that's where I pushed the idea. Most people were like, there's nothing going on in America regarding the C64. It's a dead horse. Don't ride it. It's not worth it.
Really?
And I was like, are you sure? I can't believe that nothing is going on in America. So and then of course I got in touch with Fuzz Dustin Chambers from from Canada, and he was actually the one who found me because I was publishing the idea of making a magazine for both scenes, and he was like, yeah, you found somebody from the NTC scene, hello. And he actually put me in touch with Jerry Ellsworth and all those other Americans and Canadians. And so I was like, you see, finally I was right. There is something going on over there.
Yeah,
And this is
absolutely.
how it started. But the original behavior of Europeans was like, we are the kings, and who cares what's happening
Yeah,
outside of Europe? Not a
yeah,
lot, obviously. And then I
yeah.
found out that America is pretty strong on the GEOS side, and user group meetings, and so on. So
Toronto PET user group,
yeah,
for example. I
yeah.
showcased my system there, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. And I also
One of the
saw,
calls I did.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I also saw a shift towards commercial software and games releases. Nowadays, if you look at new games for the Commodore 64, in 90% of all cases, it also says NTSC fixed as well. So I think
Interesting.
we got a hand on products being NTSC fixed again.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
How are they distributed? Because I know on itch.io actually there are a couple people that, or a few people that are actually doing new pet games, which is very cool. For example, there's the game Portal. You know that one?
No, of course.
Yeah, you can
Pretty
play
famous
on
on
the
the
pet.
PC. Yeah.
You can play it on in the pet version. I have never played it on the PC though.
Okay.
But it's a very nice version for the pet there.
Mm-hmm.
So, for
Of course,
example,
in
and
Petsky graphics.
Return from Castle Petopia. No, it's what's it called? Oh shit, sorry.
No worries.
Are you bleeping that out, by the way?
Well, I mean, since Apple decided to make it automatically flag as explicit, we don't really care.
Escape from
Care anymore.
Petsky Castle.
Ah,
Escape from Petsky Castle. That actually originated on the PET, and now they have a C64 version,
oh, interesting.
which is in color, and it's basically like Doom,
Mm-hmm.
and really playable and fast. Because, and that's the trick, it's actually using character graphics.
No, like I said, Petsky.
It is amazing. It works on the PET. This is totally crazy. And my plan is actually, if I get in touch, I mean, I think I had one or two exchanges with that guy. Once I have hardware somewhat finished, which I hope is over the course of this year, at some point, going more into the software side, because I think I heard from one guy that is working on Ford Apocalypse for the B series, for the 500, the one with the big chip. And my plan is to get in touch with this guy and then port it on my machine, because I have a dual SID. I have a video chip that's better, that has more capabilities than the VIC 2. So that would be cool, and maybe I can see that one, and maybe I can find. My plan is also to get more in touch with Nordic Sound. You interviewed him.
Yes,
that I saw.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because he's putting out so many cool sounds.
I know,
single SID.
he's amazing.
It's so freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And I have a dual SID in that machine, right? So, and basically I have no demo for it. So
Yeah,
it actually has. Come on. It actually has two speakers built in, right?
Ooh. For real stereo.
Yeah, and now the hot glue is breaking up.
No worries.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So that's where that's where some kind of commercial motivation would probably have helped to get more demos and stuff like that. But as I said, it's a hobby, and it's in a way feature complete now. So maybe some FPGA programming. I'm plan on doing some more graphics modes or something. And then I can get more on the firmware is more or less complete except for the internet stuff. So you can use USB keyboard, you can use USB mouse. So for example, this one you can actually you don't need an original PET keyboard. You can use a USB keyboard.
Oh, nice.
And so that's all. The software support is all there. From the boot menu, where you can select which version of the PET you want to do, which extensions you want to include if you want to have the extended editor ROMs from Steve Gray with color support and all that stuff, because it's color PET compatible. Also Steve's color PET compatible. That's the standard mode. So yeah, that's maybe what I'm looking more into, the software side again then.
So I see we have to catch up in a few months or a few years and see what materialized from all your plans.
Yeah, it could be a lot. It could be very little. Depends on the time I have. As I said, the journey is the destination. Or is it called it in English? I don't know. Yeah, and it's my hobby, and I enjoy it, and that's why it's coming so much good stuff out of it.
Right.
I think.
And honestly, I really like that you point out weaknesses or things that you would change on other people's product. I mean, not many people would have had the balls to tag Commodore and ask why did you decide it like this and that way, because normally when I interview people or when I talk to people, it's like, oh, the holy grails, Gideon Schweitzer, he is like the perfect developer, and Commodore, they can't do wrong things, we should be happy that they are back and stuff, and I think that's so sometimes holding back, because you could improve things.
Yeah.
You could improve things, and that's what I like about you. I like that you address stuff and not like, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you're tackling this, you have to know what you're doing. So you have to do your research. You have to understand, and basically, the first question is, my question is, I don't. It's more or less like a question. So why, or what was your intention, or why is that the case? And that in that case, he said there's just not enough fast RAM for doing the 664 that fast and the floppy that fast. So I guess the floppy is emulated in the external RAM and not in the fast RAM in the FPGA, because running something on a anyway, I'm going into that. Yeah, but you have to understand what you're talking about,
right,
and you don't have to be too assertive, because there may be reasons you don't know
right,
why that has happened. And that's the same what I said about the Apple II. There have been reasons they did it the way they did. It ended up in a way that I don't like, and that I today would do differently, but I'm not sure if I would have done that differently back then, under that given circumstances. So and here the same thing. The question was, why is the Commodore 1541 emulation as slow as the original, even if you speed up the Commodore 64? I mean, Wise can do it this way. I know if it was the hardware on the external, I know how you could detect that in the FPGA if the external hardware is connected or not. So you could probably do the emulation faster. And then the question is, why is it not, or is it planned or whatever? And then got the answer, yeah, okay, there's a technical limitation. Yeah, okay, got it. So pity.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get you. I mean,
yeah. So
I totally get you.
You can't just go there with an opinion and say,
right.
Oh, I don't like it. Why make it different?
That is why people like Jens Schoenfeld sometimes are etching up with other people, because he has a strong opinion and he doesn't deviate from his opinion. That's sometimes making it a bit hard.
Yeah, okay. I don't know that particular but any cases there, but I do have a strong opinion on things as well. But I understand that my opinions are based on some assumptions and some experience and
Right.
some knowledge about
Right.
technology or whatever. And if someone else has a different opinion, maybe even as strong as mine, is based on some other experience,
Right.
and um, the the best thing I can do is I can ask, why are you on this? Why do you have this opinion? And then I can learn something, and then maybe I can improve my stuff, my myself or my stuff as well. Yeah. So I'm I, yeah, I do have I guess I do have a good ego anyway.
Well, I mean,
But for
I've
me, it's
never heard anything bad about you, to be honest.
yeah. So, but the thank you. The 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 point is, maybe I know what I do and what I can, and so um, I'm not afraid to be challenged, because I may have done a mistake myself. Yeah.
True.
So that's I don't have to prove myself that I'm right.
Right. True.
For what reason? Yeah, I know what I've done, and I know it's most of the stuff is not the optimum or whatever. It depends on your circumstances. I understand that people are going the other way. I know many people are using basically using SD cards as their storage solution. I've never had I never had the idea to use SD cards as a storage solution if I can use a server where I don't
Right.
have to just take the SD card and
I know. That's why I
copy that stuff around like a disk in the old days.
That's exactly why I
Yeah.
prefer.
So, but people like it, and maybe that's their feeling of retro, and maybe that's their feeling they are more independent when they can take their Commodore 64 with the SD card thing in the back around without having to connect it. That's fine. That's not my use case. Yeah, but
that you are the only person who thinks like me. I'm also not using the Ultimate 1540, the Ultimate 1541 for disk transfer. I use it for tape transfer, to be honest.
okay.
So because I don't like fiddling around with those micro SD cards, it's like, oh my god,
Yeah,
why should I do that if I can use the network?
exactly.
You know, so I'm the same person here, and people are like, why don't you use a 1541? I'm like, nah, you know.
But you do have a lot of them in your back in your Schrank, in your board.
Yeah, I have one, yeah. But I'm using it for tape conversion because you have this little tape adapter.
Maybe you said you have a lot of mechanical drives there.
That's true. Yeah, a lot of mechanical drives. Yeah, that's just me. I prefer this method. It's so much quicker than going through many menus and up and down and another micro SD card and oh my god, so much fiddling around, you know. And after your day job, you just want stuff to work. You don't want to spend hours on tinkering to get things to work.
Yeah, my stuff is still mostly cross development. So I work on a PC where I have GitHub, I have my cross assembler, blah blah, my make routines and all that stuff, and I just provide that as a directory to my PC over the serial stuff, to my 64 or my PET through that, and I type in load and blah, and then it runs. Yeah, awesome. I don't need to. I mean, this was never my use case because the turnaround times are just way faster if you do it like that.
Exactly, it's like.
But I can understand. Maybe there are reasons you would prefer an SD card, and this machine basically has an SD card. So
yeah. I mean, I understand there is a majority, and then there are people like me, you know. And the majority goes this way, and I go a different way because this is how I prefer it, you know. So.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't have to force yourself to conform to a majority. I mean,
right.
you can do your own stuff.
Yeah, and I have to admit, also in my personal life, I made a career change. I used to be an IT guy, troubleshooting IT problems, you know, help desk and all those things, you know, server configuration and stuff. And since 6 years and a half, and now 7 years almost, I'm actually in quality assurance. So I'm more like finding bugs, documenting
Oh yeah.
bugs, and I find finding bugs and errors in software and hardware. I find this a lot more entertaining to to find
Yeah,
to
that's a good point.
find to find new ways to break things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a good
you
point.
know, yeah. I mean, there has been this MIDI interface like 10 years ago for the Commodore 64 of of which names I forgot now, but I remember meeting the developer at Gamescom, and he was like, "Yeah, I have this new MIDI model for the Commodore 64, and I even got licenses from Steinberg for early Cubase versions of the Commodore 64 and so on. So highly commercial, and I was like, yeah, do you give me permission to try breaking it to make your Commodore 64 crash?" And he was like, yeah, try it because it's bulletproof. And you and you know how I crashed the software? How I crashed the cartridge? Can you take a
Press
guess?
the restore key.
Run, stop, and restore. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, wow, that's the one thing I didn't consider when going somewhere. Told you, I will I will crash it. You know.
Yeah, the restore key creates an end non-maskable interrupt. Your CPU is botched.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
any timing you might have is broken. Yeah, so
Exactly. And he was shocked because he thought his software is bulletproof, and and it was like one stop restore, you know. Sometimes,
that was quick indeed. I mean, isn't that one thing, bang bang, that every Commodore 64 guy knows and does and has basically
yeah,
ingrained in your
yeah,
motion memory, like oh, it doesn't work, run, stop, restore.
exactly. You know, like in the 80s when my mom got a Commodore PC 20-3. And he would always panically hammer on the escape key if something didn't work, um, hoping
Oh,
it
yeah.
would fix it. You know,
Hmm.
escape, like, no, man, that doesn't help. You know, and the keyboard buffer would overflow, and that would like, boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not helping. That's not helping. Perhaps One last story. I got the task to crash our remote EGC server. That was when Germany still had analog phone lines, you know. You would put an EGC device on a phone receiver, and then it would make little beeps, like beep, 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 and transfer EGCs over the phone line.
What what's the
EKG.
ah
EGC. Yeah.
electrocardiogram? Okay.
Exactly. And my task, like, was, can you make the test server crash so that the server doesn't run anymore, the receiver for the EGC? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And the thing was, when the EGC server was programmed and coded, what you could do is you could make two time zones, a primary time zone and a secondary time zone as a backup, because we had servers in like Russia, Germany,
Mhm.
China, and so on. And I was like, what if I put both time zones to Berlin GMT +1? and 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 they never thought of this use case. And then
I, I, I should have, because when you started, you have two time zones, and I said, okay, what happens if my mind was asking, what happens if you do that, if you put them on the same time zone? What
exactly.
happens?
Exactly. And of course what happened is the server would reboot and it wouldn't know which of the two time zones is the correct one because they were both identical, and then it would just not boot anymore. I was like, yeah.
Ouch.
So this is the stuff I'm dealing with for a living right now, and so that's what I'm doing. I'm just finding out bugs that nobody thought of. But you see, you
Yeah,
have
but
the right
that's
mind. You have the
that's
right
a
mind.
very necessary job,
Yeah.
because software never is bug free. And the only thing is with how many bugs and or which bugs you can accept to live with. Um,
Right. Right.
and yeah, the solution to your problem with the configuration is probably with the two time zones is probably just a note in the manual to say don't ever do that on the same time zone. So
Now the question is, why does a server that is physical in one location even two time zones? That's that's the
yeah,
other question. Because the
yeah, but
time zone doesn't change. I mean, not that much anyway. It maximum 1 hour, but not like
it wasn't even connected to another server in that other time zone.
no.
Oh, okay, so it's a single server with two times. Okay, I didn't even get that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like yeah, I don't even know what the use case was because of course newer products had a different solution. They had like an offset, and then of course you wouldn't have like such problems because you would just say +1, -1, or in
Hmm.
case of India you would say plus 30 to 30 minutes
Yeah,
because
yeah.
India
But
has.
what was the reason? What was that actually the news for? Sorry, I didn't get. But anyway,
I have no idea.
yeah, okay.
Anyway, they found out that they had a bug in the server for over 10 years that nobody found but me. Because
Shows them you're worth the money.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And obviously I'm good enough that I'm still working in that field. So
Yeah, I mean, the point is once you get some experience, um, and you get an idea about how things work in the background, and then you can see, okay, maybe maybe there is a logical condition, but is that condition really working as it should? And maybe I can test it, and then you have a hypothesis, and then yeah, you test it.
exactly. Yeah, well, I see we went very far down the rabbit hole today. Um, over 2 hours. Oh my god.
Yeah, very good. No, it was very, very, very nice discussion and conversation.
Ah, thank
So I
you.
really like it. And as you live 20 kilometers from me,
Sure, sure. You can come and visit and play on my arcade machine if you like.
actually, I've never played on those.
You see? You see?
Yeah, except on our honeymoon, we traveled
Ah,
to Western USA,
uh-huh.
and one stop was Las Vegas, and we went through all the casinos and stuff like that, and no motivation. We just walked through and said, "Okay, why are people doing that?" And then we went to was it is it San Francisco or California or Los Angeles? I think it's San Francisco Pier 66 or something, or Pier something, where they have that historic arcade museum. God, I left a number of quarters there in the machines. I was playing Asteroids and Moon Patrol and Star Wars and whatever. That's basically the only one time I can actively remember where I was playing arcades, actually. Because when I was young, I don't know where there were arcades around, and then we got our home computers, and then that's all that there was.
Yeah. Most people ask me when they enter the room, does it work? And I'm like, I wouldn't put anything that doesn't work in my living room. But what a waste of space, you know?
Yeah, when people see my collection of PET, they say, "Do they work?" And
exactly.
I said, "Yeah, the last time I switched them on, they worked."
yeah.
Because actually, wait, let me just think. No, one is actually still broken. One I healed himself somehow when I made a video on fixing the keyboard, and at some point it had a wobbly screen, but then it kind of got stable again. It's probably some capacitor problem that I should probably change at some point, replace at some point in time. And then I wanted to actually show, and you can see that on one of my videos where I explained the Commodore PET video circuitry. The original PET with the snow on them. I talked through the schematics and yada yada and so on. So okay, that's why. Okay, when the CPU accessed video memory, then the video circuit that has the same time slot and in those machines just reads what the CPU is doing, not what's actually in the video memory that should be shown. And so you get this what's called snow on the screen. And I tested it. I had it all set up with the camera. I had the camera rolling. I switched it on, and then it came up, and then boom. Oh shit, or something like that. And I haven't managed to look into that because it all takes time.
This whole thing reminds me of a presentation once Bill Hurt did at one of those vintage computer festivals, and that presentation was even recorded on YouTube. It's up there, and I remember it very, very, very faintly at this point that the very early silver label and rainbow label C64s, which are very rare in Europe because there are very few around anymore. And I remember Bill Hurt explaining that the early models had white line disturbances, like little rice corns popping up when you go to the basic screen in those old models. And I actually remember the C64 of my grandfather was an early rainbow model, so the rainbow label on it, with the rainbow symbol. And he also had this bug. And I remember Bill Hurt explaining that the way how they fixed it, though you wouldn't have those white rice corns blinking up all across the screen, they would just implement a logic. Whenever this happens, turn the white color into dark blue, so it would disappear in the background. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And and also I made an interview with Bill Hurt, and he explained that later on, when he designed the C128 and the 64 mode together with Dave Haney, they actually tried to remove all those workarounds for the C64, to make it more bug free and they actually couldn't do it because it would break some cartridges and some basic programs that relied on those workarounds.
I know. I know these stories.
Yeah. So yeah, so yeah, yeah.
Bill Hurt.
Back into the storm. Oh, actually, I never got this book. I should. Okay. Huh. Yeah. Anyway, that was quite interesting. But if you know the stories already, I'm not telling you something new.
No, actually, I didn't know that one. I was about to actually look at my video without. I tried. I thought about opening YouTube without. I'm not sure, but I wasn't sure if the sound was switched off, because there you would see a picture, as I said, from the unboxing of my old 40-year-old Commodore, because that was from 83 or something. So it would probably be. It is a rainbow label, and it is a rainbow label, and yeah, it's probably one of the early ones. Yeah. It's not a silver label. You can see that, but I'm not sure if that is a specific board version, or is a specific version.
It's a specific not a good question. I guess it's a specific VIC version because it's back in the VIC ship. Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm, but don't quote me on that. I guess it would be easier to find the video of the presentation from Bill Hurt, where he explains the bug on a vintage computer festival. So that was quite interesting. And here's the thing, though. I mean, I was 5 back then when I played on my grandfather's C64 on the PET bin version. I didn't know that this was a bug. To me, as a little kid, this is how blurry and blinking it looked, you know. And I was surprised when I got my own for my 8th birthday in 1990 that my pictures from the C64C looked so much better than of my grandfather's. But nowadays I know. Nowadays I know, you know.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. Yeah.
I just looked at my video, but I had so many extensions in my Commodore 64 that, and I don't think I actually looked up the PCB version. I think it's got a specific positioning of the PLA, which is in line with the kernel and the CPU, and the SID chip is below that, next to the RAM. Yeah, but never mind.
I mean, I don't even know where my silver label is, but that definitely has this bug that Bill Hurt talked about, because I remember switching it on and was like, yeah, this exactly looks like my grandfather's early rainbow model, and I was like, yeah, that's definitely the one. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazingly, it was still working. I know the SID was broken, and then I had a replacement, which is I don't remember what name is. It's actually not printed on. It's a small blue anyway, a blue board. And I found out during that video that the random number generator, I guess the noise channel is broken on that one, or not working correctly on that rebuild of the SID. So because Ford Apocalypse, which is one of my favorite games, did I mention it? I mentioned I want to work on my machine. But
you mentioned it. Yes.
Because the random number generator was such that you actually could you would get stuck because some of the blocks wouldn't open anymore because I don't know. So, but I used them to test the sound on my self-built machine. So I have an assortment of SID new SIDs, because I don't want to have any old machine being scraped for parts.
Yeah, that's horrible. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I actually have a bad conscience, because as this is a new case, there's only one original case that I cut around for openings for my self-built machine. All the others are self-printed now. So
Nice. So you got a 3D printer. Amazing.
yeah, it's very nice. So you can do the 3D printing. The only point is if you have to put the things that are that large. So I already have a printer that has a large printing space, but I still have to print the top and the bottom in 2 parts each.
Separated, yeah, I see.
So, and then that's why, as I said, now the did you see that video of that guy that that created a C64 laptop?
I remember reading about it. Yeah, but I mean,
And he's actually on the Golem.de podcast.
Okay, then I have to check that out.
And he said he can't say anything about Commodore contacting him. So I don't know if that's just.
Yeah, I mean, there has been a C64 portable promised exactly 10 years ago in the Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign by Devil Mailburn, but he never came through with that. And every time we interview him, because he makes another mini computer, I always tease him with that. So when is the C64 portable coming out?
Yeah. By the way, this one will get HDMI. It already has a place where I can. I hope it fits into the Spartan 6 still. So I hope there's enough space, but I think so. And of course, then I can basically do the same trick as this guy with the Commodore 64 laptop and build a case. I already found out about those Gelenke, those how do you call them?
Hinge.
Yeah, exactly. Where you put the top, connect the top to the bottom so you can open it, stuff like that. And I can run on 5 volts on a USB power bank, right? So that's definitely on the list of to-dos. But yeah, it's a hobby. It may take some time.
Darren Melbourne should pay you for developing a C64 portable.
I mean, no.
No.
The point is, I'm not a pro, and I know I know I have picked up and learned really a lot. I have to say that, because this one didn't have bypass capacitors,
right?
Yeah, stuff like that. So nowadays I can do FPGA designs that don't need to put the bypass caps on the bottom side, because because I didn't manage to do that right in the first designs, stuff like that. I had the bypass caps on the bottom and stuff like that. So I learned, and then I know how to solder that manually nowadays. But I'm still not a pro, right? It's still a hobby, and I'm getting used to hot air soldering now, because this one, which is a nasty thing. You see those LEDs here? The manufacturer of those LEDs, they changed the data sheet. They renumbered the pins, the suckers.
Ooh.
And so the next batch of those boards I got had them 180 degrees turned.
Ooh.
But now I have them hot air soldered out, and a couple of them already hot air soldered in. So yeah, it's a learning experience all the way. Still, and to be honest, I have a what I took from that C64 laptop video. I got some ideas how to build the case, and it's still a case like that, but it's going to be in white. I'm going to be sanding it. I'm going to be airbrushing it and to filler and all that stuff. So that's my learning experience. So I can make at some point maybe make a PET laptop.
So when you retire from your day job, you can do this full time.
Yeah, still some time.
And then you are perfect. And
yeah. But then there are new things to learn, right?
Right. Never ending, right?
So it's always a learning experience, and always covering new grounds, and that's what makes it interesting. Still, it's not moving as fast, so that you really have to run to keep track, and that you have your time to look left and right and learn stuff on the side. Like, why should I learn? I mean, this is not a hardware thing. This is not a software thing. This is not a 3D printing thing. Because the keyboard are 3D designed from me as well.
Yeah.
It's a solution thing. So that's what I try to do.
You're not buying things stock. You create the solution yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I do buy tools and stuff like that, so I don't have to do everything myself.
Right.
You have to know the hill you're gonna fight for.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Wow, we are really going long here.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for your patience and sharing all that with me.
Thanks for your time, and it was a really nice conversation. I really enjoyed it.
I learned a lot today. A lot more than I knew about you beforehand. Now I know all your hardware. Yeah. So I could say have a good night, because it's already night in Germany. Oh my God. See?
Have a good night too, man.
Awesome.
Good.
Talk to them.
Good day, good morning, good day, good night, wherever you are.
That's a good closing point. Talk to you then. Bye.
Talk to you. Bye.